Good morning, Mountain Christian School. I've been waiting for you. No, just kidding, I haven't. Most of you have seen one of these before. This little device, this little torture device, can be very difficult to wait for. If you are playing Pictionary and you are waiting for the sand to run out before the other team gets any more points, it can be incredibly taxing and frustrating to have to wait for this little thing. This particular one is one that I use at home with my son Ezra to help him brush his teeth for the correct amount of time. And let me tell you, many days it is torturous waiting for that. I've been thinking a lot about waiting this week, especially because last week we started talking about the fruit of the Spirit, patience. And last week we talked about God's great patience for us and God's patience for his people. Even when we make wrong choices, even when we do the wrong thing, exactly opposite of what he's called us to do, God has patience for us. And so this week I've been thinking a lot about that and how God builds patience. And many times God builds patience through waiting and learning how to wait. Now, I think I told you guys this last week, but when patience was translated into English, one of the ways it was translated at first was long suffering. Patience was translated as long suffering, because that is exactly what waiting feels like some days. Suffering, nothing short of suffering. We have to wait for things all the time. I think we talked about this last time. If you're in the car, you wait for the traffic light. If you are at Safeway, you wait in line to get your groceries. If you go to a movie, you have to wait for the movie to start. And a lot of times, waiting can feel like absolute torture, suffering. Now, waiting, entire industries are built off waiting. Here's what I mean. This week as I was researching waiting, yes, I did research waiting, I realized that there are whole industries that are built on the concept of low wait times. Restaurants, fast food restaurants are many times rated by how low the wait time is. In other words, how much time you have to stand in line or wait in your car to be able to get your food. And every year they publish what the top 10 lowest wait times are. And they rank restaurants based on how little time you have to wait to get your food. Of course, this fascinated me, and so I looked it up. And anybody want to guess? I got all the research right here in front of me. Anybody want to guess what the restaurant in the United States with the shortest wait time is? Any guesses? Ready? Here it is. Dunkin'. Dunkin' Donuts. The average wait time at Dunkin' is 216.75 seconds. There's a guy sitting there with a stopwatch at lots and lots of Dunkins, just watching how long people took to get their food, which is crazy enough on its own. At Dunkin', it took 3.6 minutes to get your food. That is the number one shortest wait time in America. Woo! Anybody want to guess what McDonald's is? McDonald's is not number one. McDonald's is not number two or number three or number four. It goes Dunkin', Wendy's, Burger King, Taco Bell. McDonald's doesn't even come up until number 9 on the 2019 list of shortest wait times. McDonald's is number 9 at 284 seconds. Oh, sorry, 284.05 seconds to get your food if you're going through the drive-thru. Now, that is 4 minutes and 44 seconds. And when this information came out, the corporate world of McDonald's blew their minds. And here's why. That was 11 seconds longer than it took in 2018. In 2018, it took 4 minutes and 33 seconds. 11 seconds. Count them with me. "11 seconds!" And the entire McDonald's corporate world blew up because in 1 year, it took 11 seconds longer than it did the year before for people to get their food. And now they were number 9 on this list. See, what McDonald's knows is that the longer people have to wait, the more frustrated they get, the more upset they get, and the less likely they are to come back. And so McDonald's dropping 11 seconds was literally almost the end of the world for them. Now, here's the thing. Do you know how much they invested in changing that? They paid people buku bucks, lots of money, millions of dollars trying to change those 11 seconds, shortening the menu, paying their people more, trying to figure out how to take orders faster and get the food ready faster, because being number 9 on the list of the shortest wait times in America was not acceptable in McDonald's. It is not okay that it took 4 minutes and 44 seconds for people to get their food. It needed to be faster than that. See, McDonald's realized that. When people are sitting in their cars, 4 minutes and 44 seconds feels like a long time of suffering trying to wait for their Big Macs. Now, whole industries realize this about people. People struggle to be able to wait. People struggle to wait for things. Waiting is hard, and you all know this. You probably have to wait all the time. You have to wait for your mom to finish cooking dinner before you can eat it. You have to wait to be able to do all sorts of things during the day. That's just how it goes. That's how life goes. But waiting is like suffering. It's difficult. Now, as I was thinking about that this week, I looked through the Bible, especially in Psalms. And it's very interesting because it almost flips that. See, what a lot of times places are telling us are, you should have to wait less time. If you go to this restaurant, you'll have to wait for less time. If you go to this DMV or you go to that place, you can wait for less time. People don't like waiting. But in the Bible, in the Psalms especially, David says over and over and over, he doesn't say, don't wait. He says, wait. Specifically, wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Over and over and over again. So I have a whole list. I printed out a list of verses, and this is just 2 pages of it. I've got a whole bunch of them, of places in the Psalms and otherwhere throughout the Bible where it talks about waiting on God. Waiting on God. I'm going to read one of them right now. In Psalm 27, verse 14, it says, wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Another one in Psalm 130, this is a psalm of ascents. It says, I wait for the Lord. This is Psalm 130, verse 5. I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord more than the watchmen wait for the morning. More than the watchmen wait for the morning. And again, later after Psalms in Isaiah 40, it talks about waiting on the Lord. But those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength, and they will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not faint. And the more I thought about this, the more interesting it seemed, because it seemed like David was talking about waiting. This is what we are supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be waiting on God. Interesting. And so I started thinking about that more, and then the more I thought about it, I realized something really interesting about waiting. Because it's true that people don't like waiting. And it's true that waiting feels like suffering many times. However, there was an anomaly that I found the more I researched it, where people were very happy to wait. There was many anomalies, in fact. There are these restaurants in New York right now. There's a guy who opened a restaurant in his basement in New York, and he cooks, I think, a 15-course meal for people. And they have to sign up ahead of time to be able to come to this meal. Do you know what the wait time is for that restaurant? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 years. 14 years! And people are trying to get their names on this crazy list, and they want to wait and go to this restaurant. Now, that's an extreme case. But I started looking into it more, and I realized there are lots of different restaurants and places where people are more than happy to wait. I was looking into this barbecue place in Texas. Actually looked really, really good. And they have these crazy wait times. I think they said they open at like 9 in the morning. And they have people waiting from like 4:30 or 5 in the morning and lining up outside the restaurant to be able to get this good Texas barbecue. They're waiting for hours. And they get in, and they're happy as can be to have waited that long. Now, that's not the only case of waiting. There's another case that I was looking at recently. Disneyland. People wait for that all the time, but even more so, recently, Disneyland opened Star Wars Land. They opened a new ride called Rise of the Resistance. It's just a ride. It's based on Star Wars and Disneyland. And all of a sudden, wait times to get into Star Wars Land skyrocketed. People were camping out and waiting to be able to get into Star Wars Land, to be able to go into this new ride, the ride of Rise of Resistance. And so they would get in, and then they would put their name in for the ride. And then many times they were getting things back like, oh yeah, it'll be a 5-hour wait time. 5 hours! And they would wait for that 5 hours. So now that wasn't just waiting for that 5 hours. They would wait to get in, and then they would wait to put their name on the waiting list. And then they would put their name on the waiting list, and they would have to wait for up to 5 hours to be able to go on this ride. Now, when they finished that ride, many of those people were through the roof happy. It was the greatest ride in the world. And they were happy to wait. In fact, many of them came back the next day or the next week and waited again to go on it again. They were happy as could be to wait. And so I began to think about that. And on the one hand, I was like, people hate waiting. Waiting is suffering. And on the other hand, there are these people who seem to wait with no problem at all. And they're happy to do it. Here's another example. When a new piece of technology or a new video game comes out in the market, many, many times people will camp around the store and wait for hours to be able to get their hands on whatever it is. People don't mind waiting if what they are waiting for is worth their time. And I began to realize what you are willing to wait for says a lot about the priorities in your life. What you are willing to wait for happily are things that you feel are important. You are willing to wait as long as it takes to be able to do that. It seems to be pretty proven over and over again. Many of you right now are saying, yeah, Mr. Man, I would wait for 5 hours to go on Rise of the Resistance. I would wait and go on a 10-hour car trip, and I'd wait at Disneyland gates, and I'd wait another 5 hours to be able to go on this ride. No problem. Others of you probably would be fine waiting for hours to get your hands on some video game of some kind. Interesting, because then as I applied that piece to what David was saying in the Psalms, wait on the Lord. I wait on the Lord. What he's saying is not only just it's good to wait for God, it's good to pray and wait to hear God's voice in our lives, but that should be our priority. David is saying this is worth our time. This is worth waiting for. Hearing from God is worth the wait. And David is saying, let that be the priority of my life, the priority of my heart. Let waiting for this, it's worth it. And so I really spent a lot of time praying this week and going, God, what are my priorities? What do I wait for? What am I happy to wait for? What are things that are really difficult for me to wait for? Waiting at the grocery store is very difficult for me because my priority is not grocery shopping. However, in war-torn countries in Africa, they will wait for hours happily to get their hands on fresh food and rice and water. That's their priority, just eating. What are my priorities? What am I willing to wait for? Am I willing to wait to hear God's voice? Am I willing to have patience with that and spend my time waiting to hear from God? A lot of us have more time than usual right now. You might be stuck at home with a few more hours in your day than you usually do because things have gotten canceled or postponed. Are you willing to spend time waiting on God? To spend time praying and seeking God's will? Is that something worth waiting for you? I hope so. And I hope that for all of us, it'll be something that is worth waiting for. So that's my challenge for you this week. I want you to keep track of the things that you are willing to wait for and the things that drive you absolutely stark raving mad waiting for. What are things that you can easily tell these are a priority for me? And that's why I'm willing to wait. And what are things that you find really difficult to wait for? I want you to spend some time this week waiting on God and praying and waiting to hear from God. You willing to do it? I'm going to pray really quickly right now. God, thank you for your word. God, I pray that you would be building patience and endurance in us. I pray that we would be willing to wait to hear from you. I pray that you would give us hearts that prioritize you and your word and waiting on God. God, would you please give us hearts that wait on you? I pray that as we wait on you, we would hear from you, God. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Okay, have a good week. Don't drive your parents crazy. Bye. Oh, I forgot. Next week, we are going to be doing something kind of fun. We are going to be starting a 3-week challenge at MCS. We want to be doing something to bless the community around us. Here's what we're going to be doing. Week 1, next week, starting on Monday, we are going to be spreading joy within our neighborhood. That's week 1. Well, now it's week 2 and week 3 later, but week 1 for right now, here's what you're going to do. You are going to find some creative way to spread a little bit of joy in your neighborhood. It could be signs, it could be chalk drawings, it could be something that you want to do that spreads joy in your neighborhood. Submit a picture to us here at Mountain Christian School. We are going to be drawing at the end of the week to give a gift card to the student or family who submits a picture showing us some of the ways that we are blessing the community around us. And the week after that, we're going to be continuing to find ways to be a blessing in this time to the community around us. So join me next week. We're going to see if we can spread some joy here in the White Mountains. Have a great week.
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you